So we're in business. We're doing well. People love us, right? We have good brand equity, right? Our brand means something. People seek us out, desire us, right? And then something happens, all right? Our image is a little tainted, okay? Or it might not be that our image is tainted, but the situation outside of our control creates a need to let people know that we're still here and we're still in their corner, all right? So, crisis management, image crisis management in relationship to public relations. That's what this video is going to be about. All right. So there's two real things to consider in this. All right. There's self-inflicted and not self-inflicted. Self-inflicted is we did something bad. All right. Now it happens. If you're in business, you could do something bad that is, you could be doing something that could be perceived as bad a lot and nobody cares, nobody notices. But in the world that we live in now, where everybody's got one of these things, all right, we get highlighted, and something that's small turns into something big, all right. And sometimes it's big. It's just that in the past we might not have had it exposed like it is, all right. So that's self-inflicted, right? And quite frankly, it doesn't make us bad people, all right. It doesn't make our employees bad people. It just happens, right? If you the more people that you have come through the door, the likely it is that you're going to have some kind of thing happen that could be perceived by the public as a catalyst for them to turn their back on you. All right. So that would still be self-inflicted. All right. There's something we did. All right. Then there could be the one where it wasn't anything we did. COVID is a perfect example of that. Right. That was a public relations problem. That was a crisis that some companies correctly turned to their public relations to try and improve that situation for themselves. Others didn't. And they just said, oh, it's terrible. It's bad for everybody. And they just let it happen to them. Okay, so let's talk about a couple examples. So COVID, I used it, but oh boy, I should have practiced how to pronounce this name. The Hale Kulani Hotel during COVID-19, the pandemic hit Hawaii. It halted their luxury oceanfront hotel operations. Everything came to a standstill, forced major image and removal and revenue crisis. All right, it was an image crisis because people had to be turned away or whatever. Customers sometimes, whether or not it is the government enforcing some kind of pandemic or not, if we are going to this brand and this brand says nope, we now have an attitude towards that brand, potentially. Okay, so what did they do? They did transparent communication. Anything that was happening, anything they were doing to comply, anything that they had to do, they put it out there. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Fully transparent. Even if it's something like uh, restrictive, right? I actually remember when restaurants first started opening up, it says open for business, right? And you come in there and it was a nightmare. All right. It was a nightmare because for the social distancing, we were like 3 tables out of normally 100 tables, one in each corner, right? And then the bar was in the fourth corner and one server, right? And that's an exaggeration. I think there was like maybe 10 tables, but there was one server because they wanted to keep the amount of people in the restaurant down to minimum. It was a nightmare, right? But it didn't say that when I came in, right? It said we're open for business. All right. Now we knew that there would be some restrictions, but they weren't transparent with that. They didn't say, hey, come on in. Yes, we have one server because we're trying to keep things down. And they're doing it like this, so you can't even understand what they're saying. But anyway, they were not transparent. The hotel was very transparent. They said, this is our services that we're limited to doing. We apologize, but this is what we're offering. Okay. And they were in creative engagement. They sent out things. They did whatever they could when they could have an interaction with people. They did. They were very creative with that, and they had a media outreach. They had their social media going. They called the press. They had press releases. Hey, we're still here. Very, very important, right? So that's what they did. All right. Now that's a kind of unique thing, but there might be a situation where it's not self-inflicted. I look at some of these businesses that are on a road. that is closed for a construction project, and construction projects can take forever, right? And it's not their fault, but they're losing business because a lot of their business comes from people seeing them as they drive by, right? So that would be a crisis that you would have to use PR to do. You might have some kind of promotions or whatever, but PR is a big deal. Now you have the self-inflicted ones, right? There's tons of examples of self-inflicted ones, right? Especially in the age of the cell phone. Okay. I am not going to link a link to this video footage because I watched 10 seconds of it and I found it disturbing. It wasn't horrible, but it was just the way the video was just shaking all around. It just whatever. Okay. And that was United Airlines removing a passenger because they overbooked. Okay. So you overbook, people overbook, it happens all the time. All right. But what you don't do when everybody on the plane's got their camera out is pull somebody and drag them on the floor of the cabin where their shirt's being pulled up and they're screaming and calling you names and just pull them off. That's not what you do. Now, all right, we know that's not what we do, but sometimes things that we know not to do, we do. All right. It happens. We're not the one person in charge who sets the standards, and we're not the company that does this, is not there every single time, right? So you do what you can to prevent it, but then when it happens, you have to circle the wagons and work on your PR. So what happened was the initial mistake was the airline's actions when it came to being overbooked. They aggressively pulled someone off the plane. The PR strategy, all right, this hits the street, right? This hits YouTube. You're at home on the weekend. You're the CEO of American Airlines. Is it American? United. And you get a phone call and say, hey, watch this video. And then you're like, oh, God. All right. So emergency meetings, we need to do something, right? Swift leadership response. You cannot in that situation just say, well, let's see how the public responds. In this day and age, that's not an option. All right. So what they did is they had very swift things. They put out an apology. In this world where everybody wants an apology for things that you shouldn't have to apologize for, I understand when some companies will not apologize. When you're dragging somebody out of an airplane and it's caught on video and it's got 7 million views 10 seconds after it's out, an apology is in order. Okay. Take full responsibility. Apologies in order. Policy change. Make sure that you communicate to everybody that our policy now is on the front end. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we do not overbook. And on the back end, when we do, the incentives to take people off the plane, as far as free airfares or whatever, are going to be higher. And the procedures to make sure that we don't put too many people on the plane to begin with. That's the biggest problem that they have. Okay, so those are the things that you want to do, and then media engagement. The airline is, the airline cannot ignore this. They're there. They're showing the better side of them. They're showing the responsible side over and over and over again. They are taking the interviews. How many times have you seen something like this, and you got some smug reporter sitting there with a camera and says, "And we reached out to them, but they declined to comment." All right. Don't decline to comment. And you have to face it head on. All right. Now, what happened? Eventually, people forgave them. All right. The public can have long memories, but sometimes they don't. All right. Especially in a company like an airline, you got to fly. All right. But it can hurt. It can hurt. And United, it's not the first time that United's had a black eye. I mean, there's a song, United Breaks Guitars. If you haven't heard of that, seek it out on YouTube. It's pretty funny. All right. So, yeah. So that's crisis management. Crises do happen. Doesn't make you bad people. Doesn't make our people bad people. Doesn't make us a bad company. If we don't address it, it can. But crisis happens. You need to take a bull by the horn and address it and be transparent. Transparent, you would think that was for the self-inflicted ones, all right? But in the COVID situation, that really helped out, saying, yes, No, people's like, yeah, we're open for business, but honestly, you're not going to get the same service you used to get. All right. And because of that, we're going to discount prices or whatever. All right. But to mislead people uh, in a way that when you're addressing a crisis is not a good thing at all, ever. All right. So PR is very powerful. All right. How we respond to actions is very, very powerful. Now, when we talk about PR in general, when everything's going on, we might put out press releases because we want good press, but we might just never make it to the press. But when there's a crisis, especially a self-inflicted one with a video, we're already there. So we have to use PR to our best advantage. All right. So hopefully you found this video interesting, and I will see you later.